The gateway had led them somewhere no human had ever imagined. Beyond Earth. Beyond recorded history. They had stepped into the remains of a civilization whose achievements dwarfed everything humanity had ever built. Nothing here had been created for worship. Every structure, every passage, every machine had been designed with purpose. This was not a forgotten kingdom. It was the heart of an engineering civilization that had mastered worlds long before human civilization had learned to shape stone. As the expedition moved deeper into the complex, the silence itself seemed intentional. No signs of conflict. No ruins left by war. No evidence of panic or destruction. Only the unsettling absence of those who had once called this place home. Then the archive awakened. Ancient records, preserved across unimaginable spans of time, began revealing fragments of a forgotten history. One world after another appeared before them. Not isolated civilizations, but members of a vast network linked across the stars. Knowledge had once traveled freely between these distant worlds. Ideas, discoveries, warnings. Entire civilizations had shared what they learned through a system that connected planets separated by thousands of light years. For millions of years, the network had flourished. Then, the records changed. World after world began disappearing from the archive. Connections that had endured for ages were deliberately severed. The great network was not collapsing through failure. It was being shut down. One gateway at a time. The expedition watched as the archive revealed the reason. A darkness moved across the stars. It did not conquer civilizations. It consumed them. Entire planets were stripped of the energy that sustained every living thing. When a world had been completely drained, the harvester turned toward the star that gave it life. One sun after another faded into darkness. Entire planetary systems disappeared from the archive as though they had never existed. The silence surrounding the builders was no longer a mystery. It was the aftermath of survival. As the final images faded, the archive directed the expedition toward one last chamber. If the records had shown them how the builders disappeared, perhaps whoever waited beyond that door could explain why. The chamber opened without resistance, as though it had been waiting. Not for a password, not for a command, but for humanity itself. At its center sat the last builder. For millions of years, this solitary guardian had remained behind while an entire civilization faded into history. Not to preserve an empire, but to preserve the truth. The archive had shown what happened. Now, at last, the reason became clear. The harvester was not a civilization seeking conquest. It was a cosmic predator. It did not negotiate. It did not occupy worlds. It existed for only one purpose: to consume energy on a scale beyond human imagination. Life on a planet was merely the beginning. Once a world's energy had been exhausted, the harvester turned toward the star that sustained it, draining even the sun until the entire system became silent and lifeless. No civilization, regardless of its knowledge or technology, had ever survived once it had been discovered. The builders fought for millions of years. They built defenses beyond anything humanity could yet comprehend. They united countless civilizations beneath a single network. Yet every victory came at a terrible cost. The harvester could always find another path. It needed only one active gateway. One signal. one civilization reaching too far into the darkness. In the end, the builders accepted a truth they had long refused to face. The network that had once united the galaxy had become its greatest weakness. So they made the ultimate sacrifice. World by world, gateway by gateway, they disconnected every civilization from every other. Not to abandon them, but to hide them. To give younger worlds a chance to grow without attracting the same fate. Earth had remained hidden because those sacrifices had succeeded. Until now. By reopening the gateway beneath the temple, humanity had unknowingly announced its presence. The silence that had protected Earth for millions of years had finally been broken. The last builder had waited through the ages for this single moment. Not to ask humanity to avenge the builders. Not to restore their civilization. But to finish what they could not. Because the harvester had found the signal. And it was already on its way. The builder's warning ended, and as the unimaginable became reality, the harvester had found them. Across the builder world, systems that had remained silent for millions of years awakened one final time. Ancient defense arrays surged back to life. For millions of years, the builders had fought this same battle across countless star systems. Not to defeat the harvester, but to slow its advance. To buy time. The final battle had begun. Ancient weapons unleashed everything the builders had preserved for this very moment. The skies burned with the last strength of a civilization that had once protected worlds across the galaxy. Yet even now, the harvester continued forward. Relentless. Unstoppable. One defensive line after another fell into silence. The last builder watched without fear. He had never expected his civilization to survive. Its future had ended long ago. Only its purpose remained. As the harvester broke through the final defenses, the builder activated the archive's last command. The gateway to Earth began collapsing. If the connection remained open, humanity would become the harvester's next destination. The expedition understood. There was nothing more they could do here. The builders had already given everything they possessed. With one final look toward the last guardian, they crossed the gateway. Behind them, the builder remained. Not to escape, but to ensure the gateway closed forever. In a final act of sacrifice, the civilization that had guided worlds for millions of years disappeared into history. The expedition emerged beneath the ancient Mayan temple. Earth seemed unchanged. But humanity no longer stood alone in its history. It had inherited the builder's final mission. Deep beneath Yellowstone, the prime portal mechanism still waited. The builders had left humanity one final chance. If the mechanism could be secured before the harvester reached Earth, their sacrifice would not have been in vain. If it failed, the fate that had consumed countless worlds would soon reach our own.